move on to our next debate this afternoon, which is missing persons in Cyprus. Mike Freer.
Thank you for the debate, and could I say that it's the first time I've spoken under your chairmanship, so I'm looking forward to how this afternoon goes. Mr. Chairman, let me start by saying what the debate is not about. It's not about the politics of the continued division of Cyprus or the rights and wrongs of the Turkish troops continuing to occupy part of an EU member state. It is about the humanitarian issue of families seeking closure on the fate of missing relatives. 37 years ago, almost to the day, Turkey invaded Cyprus, and Cypriots, both Turkish and Greek, were involved in the fighting. Many were captured and never seen again. Even today, some 1,500 people are still unaccounted for. And young army conscripts of the Cypriot National Guard, reservists and civilians, including women and children, are members of that number who are unaccounted for. Mr. Weir, Chairman, families have a right to know what has happened. Are their relatives dead? And if so, where are their graves? If they are dead, why can't the location of their remains be disclosed and their remains returned? And what about those imprisoned in Turkey? Could they still be alive after 37 years and still in prison? If those that were imprisoned in Turkey are dead, where are they buried? And what about the missing children like Christaki Georgiou, the brother of Mrs. Hadjoulis, my constituent, who was last seen alive at the age of 5 in 1974, being taken away by a doctor at a hospital controlled by the Turkish army. And he is reported to be alive and reported recently in the press to be alive. Don't the families have a right to know? How many other children could have been placed with Turkish families and still be alive in mainland Turkey? Mr. Chairman, the tragic issue of missing persons is a humanitarian problem with human rights and international humanitarian law implications. The Cypriot government complies with the efforts to identify the missing on both sides. It is time that Turkey followed suit. The organisations involved in locating and identifying the missing should have full access to the archives of all organisations, both civilian and military. To date, Turkey has refused to allow the International Committee access to military bases. And this is despite the committee operating under the auspices of the United Nations and under careful supervision. The right of family members to know the fate of their missing relatives, including their whereabouts and the circumstances and causes of their disappearance, is a humanitarian issue. The obligation to carry out an effective investigation into the circumstances surrounding a disappearance is required by international human rights law and international humanitarian law. And whilst focusing on the humanitarian dimension of missing persons in armed conflict, it's also necessary to bear in mind that cases of missing persons can sometimes constitute criminal offences, including war crimes or crimes against humanity. Perhaps this is why Turkey is dragging its feet.